Hello everyone, and welcome to another showcase session. My name is Hal, and today we're gonna take a look at Vectorscopes. As usual, there will be a link in the description where you can download all the photos used in this video. You can download them and try all of the stuff that we talk about for yourself and see how you can implement them. If you haven't already seen the Darktable from A to Z session about Vectorscopes, or if you need a refresher, there will be a link on the screen right now. Alright, let's crack on. As you can see in a normal histogram, I'm going to first just change the exposure a bit so that we can see the colors better. Alright, that looks okay. And keep in mind, we're not editing the photos from completely. It's not for publishing purposes. This is just to have a look at how we're going to be using Vectorscopes. That's why we have multiple images to go through. We cannot spend a lot of time on every single one. Alright, so go to color calibration. I'm going to switch to Vectorscope. And if you right click on either the gamut check or the soft proofing, you can set your histogram profile, and I'm just checking what it is. It's sRGB, web safe. And the profile that you choose here will govern the space that you see in between the ring here. Alright, so what do we expect to have here? First, there's the skin tone. There's red, quite a bit, and a lot of green. So we'd expect to have red, green, and some blue. What we have now is almost the same amount of blue as red and green, not exactly. You can see those are more volume in here, but still. Now let's see what the color calibration tool would do by itself. Well, of course, that's horrible, but it's set on the dress. If we select a bigger area, then it does a better job. We can even try to select, well, this isn't supposed to be white, so I don't see any white here. Maybe the white of the eyes if we wanted to. We can take this as a start, or we can try to see if others methods do a better job. Well, this one is already much better. As you can see, it almost got rid of most of the blue, like we expect. I would want to have a bit more blue. I think the model looks a bit too reddish here. Let's see if we can add some blue. That's the wrong way. See, a little bit of blue. There you go. What did we do? That's the default out of the camera, or at least what Darktable decided to apply by default, and that's after color calibration. Well, the difference is noticeable, I would say, but it's not huge. You rarely get a very bad white balance out of the camera nowadays, so the changes that you expect to do should not be out of this world. Alright, that should do it for this photo. Let's move on. I'll do the same, and first, well, this one doesn't need a lot of exposure. Changing the exposure just a little bit to see it better. I'll go back here and select vector. So what do we expect to see here? There's a lot of red and purple. I think maybe a bit too much blue. But there should be no green. At least very little green. Alright, let's see what auto or AI does with this. It's still more or less the same. Well, there isn't a lot of green, so that's great, but I see a lot of red, and I haven't been there since this isn't my photo. It could be that there was a red gel on the flash or the light, but we're going to pretend that this is done under natural lighting or just normal flash and try to minimize the red. Of course, when we're doing the color calibration, we're just trying to get the colors as true to reality, how the photo was made, as possible. If we want to have change the colors, have some artistic view on them afterwards, we can do that, but we need a solid foundation to start with. Let's see. Well, I think the easiest way is to start by doing that, and that by itself fixes it quite well. I'll tinker with it a little bit more. Yeah, and let's see what we did. So that's how we started. It's all into the red and purple, as you can see here, or red and magenta actually I should say, with a little bit of orange. Then we fixed the distribution a little bit more to have a bit more blue and a little bit more green, and as you can see, the color of the skin became more realistic again. Now I have to be honest, of course that's a valid way of doing your color calibration, but I prefer to have a color checker and just do it using the color checker. You can still use the Vectorscope when doing the color checker, of course, but it's all automated and it's much easier. All it takes is taking the color checker with you. A small pocket one, passport size, would do. If you don't know how to use the color checker, have a look at the Darktable from A to Z video on the screen now. Okay, moving on, the third one. Now let's do the same, just that those photos are a little bit too dark. It's difficult to see the photo to be able to correctly assess the colors, because keep in mind that at the end of the day you do want to have the colors to your liking and not just what's in the Vectorscope or in the histogram. Okay, my first reaction is there's way too much yellow in the photo before even looking here, but looking here directly justifies that initial impression. There's some green, it's probably hidden in the yellow as well because I don't see any greens in the photo. And again, we're going to pretend that this was done under perfect lighting, neutral lighting, and try to correct a little bit of that yellow. We can try the AI again. Ooh, AI even adds more yellow. Or image edges. No luck. Okay, that by itself fixes it a bit. Let's select the whole image and see what that does. That's as well not bad. I'll just have a look at what happened before we start tinkering with it. There was a shift from the yellow, green. There was still a lot of yellow, but we got a little bit more blue. Maybe a bit too much. The skin is a little bit bluish. Let's see. Yeah. Yes. I think I prefer this one. Have a look again. That's how it was. And that's where we are. Much better color, even the hair, but as well the color of the dress. it's a better starting point for whatever we want to do. And now we have a solid starting point. Of course, you can choose any colors you want and color grade the image to your liking afterwards, which is what we're going to do with the next image. Let's do the same first like the others and fix the exposure a bit, as it's yeah, just to be able to see a bit into the shadows. Set some local contrast. Okay, again, keep in mind we're not completely editing the image, just trying to have a starting baseline. Right, first color calibration. What do we expect here? Well, I'd expect a lot less green. There's blue and red, more or less, which this one looks already to be good enough. To this, didn't change much. Do I want to change it? No, this seems to be pushing it more towards yellow and green, which don't particularly need. Right, I'll keep it here. Yeah, that looks okay to start with. It's mainly blue, red. There's a bit more orange as well, or it's all in the reddish notes, I should say. I shouldn't say, but that's what we're going to say. And we're going to try to color grade it a bit. If you're unfamiliar with any of the modules we're using here, as usual, you can check the Darktable from A to Z series. We don't use any new modules in the showcases. Those are always modules that we've already discussed in the other series. Let's have a look. Where are the highlights? Of course, the sky. We should expect that. And the shadows will be mainly, well, not mainly, only in the landscape. Okay, now we're going to be very predictable and just add more blue into the sky and more red into the landscape. And to do that, we're going to shadow. We're going to add more red. I'm going to, that's too much, but just somewhere where we can see the color that we're adding. Of course, we're going to tone that down afterwards, just to see which color fits best. Well, say this one, and you can already see here what we're doing, what we're adding. So just change the chroma to what's acceptable, and then we're going to do the same with the highlights. First, an ungodly amount to actually be able to see the hue that we're adding, and choose one that fits what we had in mind. I think a bit more blue. Don't want to stray into the purple because I want some contrast between the colors. Yeah, this one is good. And then of course keep an eye on the vector scope. That's what we're doing, and you can see as much if I add how the vector scope is changing, and we almost got rid of all of the green and yellow that were in the photo. I'm going to keep this actually quite high. Then after that we can play around with the chroma or saturation. Let's add some saturation, too much. And I'm so used to looking at the photo itself. It's very difficult to do this based on the vector scope for me. but it's always good to check back in there. Well, first you can see if you're already going out of the your color space. Of course, keep in mind that this is not a gamut check. You should always do that on the side. But if you're already out of it here, out of the range here, then you should correct it. But that's a bit too much, adding everywhere, but it's only for demonstration purposes. Okay, have a look. That's how it was. That was the, say, solid starting point as usual. It's pretty evenly distributed, a little bit more in the blue and the red as we certainly expect, but maybe a bit too much green and yellow for what should be in the photo. Well, I mean, sand does have yellow in it, of course, you can see that, but I don't think that there is a lot of green. But in any case, now we're out of how realistic it is and we're trying to put our own color grading to it, and that's what we did. Lots of red and magenta and blue. As you can see, very little yellow left. Alright, and the last application that we can do for the Vectorscope is making sure that all of our photos from the same session have the same color grading, or even if you want to copy the color grading from another image. And to do that, let's open an image that I've done earlier. We can have a look at what the Vectorscope is like, and then try to emulate it in the photo that we're editing. Of course, those are now both from the same session, I think under the same light. I'm not sure, again, not my photos. You can download them from the link in the description. However, it could be that you had the same session but changed the light, changed the place, moved somewhere else. If you want to give all of the session the same look and feel, then you would want to use the Vectorscope, or at least you could use the Vectorscope. Like I said, you could as well use a color checker for the color calibration and copy and paste your all of the other module settings from one to the other, and most of the time, unless the lighting is completely different, you will end up with the same mood. However, if you were trying to copy this photo to one that was done outside, for instance, or if both of the photos were outside, then the ambient light might change significantly, and you should keep an eye on the Vectorscope. Even if you're doing it, well, we're definitely not using it, you're not doing it using the Vectorscope, but we're using the Vectorscope to check our work, so to speak. All right, enough blah blah. Let's open the other one. So keep this in mind. Lots of red, a little bit of magenta, and there's some yellow and green. All right, now let's open the one we want to edit. And as you can see, it's here a little bit more towards orange, not a lot of red or magenta, and there's quite a bit of blue and cyan. Okay, let's try to fix that. I'm going as well. I was going to say it's not a obligatory step, but for me it is, because you need to be able to see the photo. If it's too dark, then it's difficult to assess it. Okay, then let's go back to the Vectorscope. Color calibration. Let's first try to have a solid starting point, like we've already said about 100 times in this video. And to do that, what do I expect? Well, a little bit of all colors, maybe not a lot of green, but well, not a lot, maybe no green, but a little bit of all colors. let's do it like this. Seems to be correct. Do I want to change anything? No, I think it's rather correct. Yes, bit of blue, and it's mainly lots of red tones. Okay, then I'm gonna go into my color balance RGB, open the other one again, just, well, without, not trying to cheat, but just to look at this. So it was pushed outside of the blue, and we've added some yellow and a lot of orange. Let's try to do that here. Okay. Highlights are mostly the model, as should be expected, and that's mainly, well, it's part of the model, but as well mainly the hair. Okay, so let's see. Since we want to move everything, shift it a little bit to the left here. I'm going to, well, on the here, put some yellow to try to get rid of those blues here and see if that works. It does. Looks good. Okay, and then maybe some orange, and that's maybe a bit too much, right? No, that's fine. I think we're getting there. We need a little bit more yellow still. Not here. Maybe move this a little bit towards the yellow. Oh yeah, that helps. This a little bit. In the orange, no, we don't need that one, I think. Yeah. Do we need to maybe add some color? No, her. No. I think we're messing too much with the skin, but just in the shadows, a bit more color, and maybe a little bit less in the midtones, just to correct the skin too much. Okay, let's see how we are now. This one has more green, so let's try to introduce that. Yeah. And now we're pretty much there, as you can already see. Maybe a little bit less still in the midtones, just to get the skin a nicer color, and there you go. Of course, we don't have to have them exactly the same. You can try to get them as close as you want, but just having a similar balance between the colors in the vector scope would give the same look and feel to the image, or color grading if you want. There you go. Alright, well, we'll stop here. I hope that you found this video interesting and helpful. If you have any questions or corrections, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.